The moment you stop needing to be impressive is the moment you start being unstoppable. We live in a world obsessed with proving we're smart enough, strong enough, talented enough. Social media, school, careers, even casual conversations can become stages where we feel the need to perform. We dress ourselves up in our achievements and hope someone notices. But what if I told you that all this proving might be holding you back? When we live to prove, we start to fear failure. We stop taking risks. We hesitate to try new things because we're afraid of not looking good, not being enough. But growth, the kind that shapes who we are, is messy. It doesn't happen under pressure to impress. It happens when we're brave enough to focus on improving. We live in a world obsessed with proving we're smart enough, strong enough, talented enough. Social media, school, careers, even casual conversations can become stages where we feel the need to perform. We dress ourselves up in our achievements and hope someone notices. But what if I told you that all this proving might be holding you back? True growth comes from focusing on progress, not performance. Performance is about the moment. Progress is about the journey. Performance asks, "How did I do?" Progress asks, "How far have I come?" The first relies on instant results, quick wins, and often external approval. The second is quieter. It's patient, it's personal, and it's powerful. When we chase performance, we get addicted to outcomes. We judge ourselves on test scores, likes, titles, and trophies. And when we fall short, we don't just feel disappointed, we feel defeated. Like we've failed, not just the task, but ourselves. But when we focus on progress, we begin to see growth in every setback. We see mistakes as feedback, not failure. We begin to understand that every skill, every strength, every piece of wisdom we admire in others was built step by step. There is no shortcut to mastery, there is only progress. Imagine two people learning to play the piano. One wants to perform at a recital in 3 weeks. Their goal is to impress. Every missed note feels like a disaster. The other just wants to get a little better every day. They practice with curiosity, not pressure. They laugh at their wrong notes, and they keep going. Guess who enjoys the process more? Guess who sticks with it longer? Progress doesn't promise perfection, it promises transformation. And here's the part we often overlook. Performance isn't bad, it's just not the foundation. If you build on performance alone, every success becomes a new standard to maintain. You'll always be chasing the next big thing to prove your worth. But if you build on progress, success becomes a side effect. It's the natural result of consistent effort. This mindset shift can change everything, from how you approach work and school to how you treat your relationships. When you're focused on progress, you're not threatened by someone else's success, because you're not competing, you're learning. You're not stuck comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. You're not measuring yourself against an ideal version of perfection, but against who you were yesterday. Growth is personal, it's quiet, it's not always glamorous, but it's what allows you to wake up one day and realize you've become someone stronger, wiser, and more capable, not because you proved yourself once, but because you kept showing up when no one was watching. So instead of asking, "Did I win today?" maybe the better question is, "Did I grow?" That's the question that leads to real lasting change, because you're not here to be perfect, you're here to get better. Seeking validation from others can limit potential and creativity in ways we often don't even realize. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to look outward for approval. We learn to seek gold stars, high grades, compliments, and recognition. It starts innocently enough, encouragement from teachers, praise from parents, but over time, the habit can become a trap. We begin to shape who we are around what we think will be liked, accepted, or celebrated. And slowly, often silently, we begin to silence parts of ourselves that don't fit the mold. When we rely too heavily on validation, we start living someone else's version of success. We choose the safe path over the passionate one. We pick what looks good on paper instead of what feels meaningful inside. We edit ourselves in real time, saying what we think others want to hear, doing what we think will make them approve, and in doing so, we begin to trade authenticity for applause. This constant need for validation creates a fragile sense of self. Our confidence becomes conditional, only as strong as the latest compliment, only as steady as the last approval. If someone disagrees with us, we feel threatened. If someone disapproves, we shrink. It becomes nearly impossible to take risks, to try something new, or to express a different opinion when we're afraid of losing approval, and yet that's exactly where creativity lives, in risk, in exploration, in the courage to be different. Think about any great innovator, artist or thinker: Steve Jobs, Maya Angelou, Frida Kahlo, Albert Einstein. These people did not ask for permission. They weren't waiting for someone to tell them their ideas were good enough. They trusted their own instincts, even when the world didn't understand them. And that's the thing, creativity doesn't flourish when you're trying to fit in. It flourishes when you're willing to stand out. Seeking validation too often leads us to self-censor. We second-guess our ideas before we even try them. We abandon projects we care about because someone raised an eyebrow. We hesitate to share our real opinions because they might not be popular. In the process, we dull our edge. We trade originality for acceptability. We become echoes of what others expect, rather than expressions of who we truly are. This doesn't mean feedback or support is wrong. Feedback, when thoughtful and well-timed, can help us grow, but the difference is in where we place our center. When our sense of worth depends on external applause, we become reactive. We're constantly adjusting to the room, constantly scanning for approval, and constantly afraid of losing it. But when we create from a place of inner conviction, when our worth is anchored in our values, not opinions, we're free. We can listen without fear. We can take feedback without crumbling. We can evolve without losing ourselves. Validation is seductive because it gives us a quick hit of self-worth, a like, a compliment, a retweet. It feels good, but it's not sustainable. The more we rely on it, the more we need it. It becomes an addiction, and like all addictions, it keeps us from facing ourselves honestly. It keeps us from asking deeper questions. What do I really want? What do I believe in? What matters to me when no one else is watching? And there's another cost. When we seek constant validation, we often hold back from others too. If I'm trying to impress you, I may not be honest with you. I might hide my mistakes. I might pretend to agree. I might even smile, while secretly disagreeing. But connection isn't built on performance. It's built on honesty, on vulnerability, on people being real with each other. So the more we seek validation, the more we miss out on the kind of relationships that actually help us grow. This is especially dangerous for creativity. Creativity demands risk. It asks us to try things that might not work, to say things that might not land, to share things that might not be understood right away. But if we're afraid of rejection, we'll water down our ideas, we'll mimic what's already been done, we'll aim for likes instead of impact, and in doing so, we'll rob the world of what only we can create. At its core, the need for validation is a need to feel seen, valued, and loved. That's a human need. We all have it. But the mistake is thinking we can only get that through constant approval. In truth, The most powerful kind of validation comes from within. When you do something aligned with your values, when you act with integrity, when you express yourself honestly, you feel it. A deep, quiet kind of pride, not the noisy kind that needs to be noticed, but the grounded kind that lets you sleep well at night. It's worth asking, who would you be if no one was watching? What would you do if you didn't need anyone's permission? What would you create if you weren't worried about being liked? These aren't easy questions, but they're important, because at the end of the day, real freedom isn't about having everyone's approval, it's about no longer needing it. It's about being so connected to your own sense of purpose, curiosity, and integrity that you can show up fully, as you are, not as a curated version of yourself. The world doesn't need more polished personas, it needs more real people, people who are willing to speak truthfully, create boldly, and live authentically, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. So the next time you feel yourself reaching for someone else's approval, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this true to me? Is this coming from who I am, or who I think they want me to be? Because every time you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim a little more of your power. Every time you choose your own voice over the crowd's applause, you become more of who you were meant to be. You said embracing the process of learning leads to lasting confidence and fulfillment, because it shifts our focus from perfection to progress, from achievement to understanding, and from fear to curiosity. In a world that often glorifies quick results, instant success, and overnight talent, it can be easy to forget that everything worth mastering takes time. Learning isn't a straight path, it's winding, unpredictable, and full of setbacks, but it's also rich, meaningful, and transformative if we allow ourselves to fully engage in the process rather than obsess over the outcome. When we approach life with the mindset of a learner, we start to see mistakes differently. Instead of viewing them as failures or signs of inadequacy, we begin to recognize them as stepping stones. Every time we fall short, every time we misunderstand, every time we have to try again, it's not a dead end, it's part of the path, it's feedback, it's data, it's an invitation to dig deeper. This shift in perspective builds a quiet kind of confidence, one that isn't based on being right or always getting it perfect, but on knowing that we can grow through effort, resilience, and reflection. The process of learning teaches us patience. In a society where everything seems to happen fast, messages, results, gratification, it takes a certain kind of courage to go slow, to sit with uncertainty, to not know something and be okay with that. Learning asks us to be vulnerable, to say, I don't know yet. That simple word, yet, is powerful. It holds space for potential. It reminds us that where we are now is not where we have to stay. That mindset opens doors that the fear of inadequacy would otherwise keep shut. This approach is deeply fulfilling because it aligns with how we are wired to grow. We are not born with all the knowledge we need. We are designed to explore, to question, to experiment. When we embrace the process, we tap into that natural sense of curiosity, and curiosity is far more sustainable than pressure. You can't fake curiosity. It drives you from within. It asks not just how can I get this done, but what can I discover here? That question keeps us engaged, long after the external rewards have faded. Confidence built on learning is different from the kind that comes from constant praise or easy wins. Surface-level confidence can be easily shaken. One setback, one harsh critique, and it can crumble. But the confidence that comes from the process, from having worked through something difficult, from having kept going despite not knowing everything at first, has roots. It's deep. It says, I've been here before, I've struggled and grown, I trust myself to figure it out. That kind of confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to, it shows up quietly but firmly, especially when things get hard, and the fulfillment that comes with this mindset goes beyond the satisfaction of checking a box or reaching a goal. It's the fulfillment of becoming, of looking back and seeing how far you've come, not just in skill but in perspective, in maturity, in grit. You start to value not just what you can do, but who you're becoming in the process. That's the gift of learning. It changes you, it expands your capacity, it teaches you how to think, not just what to know. This is especially important in a world where things change constantly. Skills become outdated, industries evolve, information moves faster than ever. If we cling too tightly to what we already know, we risk becoming rigid, resistant, and fearful. But if we keep learning, we stay adaptable, we stay open, we stay human. The ability to learn, and to love learning, is one of the most essential life skills we can cultivate. Consider the difference between someone who views challenges as threats and someone who sees them as opportunities to grow. The first might back away, blame others, or give up. The second leans in, asks questions, reflects, and tries again. That second person isn't just learning skills, they're learning how to live, they're building mental strength, they're learning emotional flexibility, they're creating a foundation for lifelong fulfillment, because they're not just chasing achievements, they're building wisdom. We often think fulfillment comes from success. But many people reach their goals and still feel empty because they were so focused on the end result that they missed the richness of the journey, the late nights of study, the failures that taught resilience, the conversations that sparked insight, the small moments of progress that went unnoticed. Fulfillment grows not from ticking boxes, but from pouring yourself into something and knowing you gave it everything, not because someone was watching, but because it mattered to you. And let's not forget, learning is not just academic or professional, it's personal. Learning how to listen, how to forgive, how to communicate, how to be kind when you're angry, how to ask for help, how to say no. These are not things you master in a class. These are things you learn through experience, reflection, and often painful trial and error. But every lesson deepens your sense of self, every insight strengthens your connection to others, every piece of growth adds to a sense of meaning that no certificate or trophy can provide. So often, people wait to feel confident before they start. But it's the other way around. You build confidence by starting, by being a beginner, by letting yourself be unpolished and uncertain. Every time you choose to stay in the process, to keep learning even when it's hard, you're building a kind of trust in yourself that lasts. You're saying, I may not be there yet, but I'm moving. That movement is what matters. In the end, embracing the process of learning is an act of self-respect. It means honoring the time it takes to grow, trusting that effort will pay off, believing that you are worth the patience and practice it takes to become the person you want to be. It's not flashy, it's not always easy, but it is deeply empowering, because no matter where you are, or what you're learning, you're not standing still, you're becoming, and that is more than enough. You said,